That was at the Stereophonic?
Yep.
Oh, wait a minute. Was that at the Art Gallery or was that at George's?
George's.
Was that the one where John was in a diaper or pink underwear? Where
I think he had sequin Speedos on.
just like almost nothing?
Yeah.
Okay, that was bad.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the show about the hit makers, people making the hits, eh? Out here in the Maritimes, Atlantic Canada, wah? So one time my band played in Toronto, Ontario, and these two guys emceed the show. And we had come in from Halifax. And we didn't ever really think that Halifax was viewed as being that remote, especially when you grow up in a more rural part of Atlantic Canada. Halifax is like the city. Anyhow, we get on stage, and these two clowns are introducing us going, "Ooh, these boys are all the way from the East Coast." We don't actually talk like that. So today I am interviewing my friend Jason Vautour. J-Vo, you may know him better as. Getting over a bit of a cold right now. I was out and about in the scene this weekend, checking out some shows, hanging with some people. I watched the Motley Crue movie, The Dirt, on, I guess last night, Sunday night. And I enjoyed it. It's funny because it is very kind of what they were up to is not my thing, but I like the movie. I read the book also, and I found everybody came across as much more likable in the movie. J-Vo is from that era. He was I guess initially a Kiss fan, and kind of got into 80s metal in the 80s when he was taking up the guitar. St. Johnner, learning guitar, now lives in Halifax, plays with all kinds of different people, studied jazz, into lots of different stuff. Really, really incredible player. I'm rambling. All right, here it is, me and Jay. Enjoy.
Less fleas, though.
We got a job to do.
Okay, I guess so. This couch is nice. Okay, shoot.
All right. Jay, how you doing today?
Oh, just handy. Stretching out the back. Oh, it's good. It's good.
That's good.
Just getting up.
I want you to be comfortable.
Yeah.
So you are here in
Good
St.
couch.
John doing what?
Visiting. Visiting on my March break. I teach music in Halifax, teach guitar and bass, and this is the school March break, and a lot of my students are of the student age, and so I am here taking a little bit of a little break of my own, and also doing some rehearsing and stuff with the band that I'm in here. Yeah, disco.
Tell us a little bit about how that works, being in a band where you live in a different town. Could you?
I could, and I will.
I've done it too. I want to hear your version.
Yeah, I suppose you did, yeah. It's very tricky. It can be, you got to be super organized, especially when everybody's rehearsing without you, and you're not there in the rehearsal room to find out like exactly what the details are of each individual song and the intros and endings of things and how things are working and what backup harmony you have to do and
Right.
and everything. It's a lot of details to just herd
Yeah.
over time and just make sure that you keep them while you're in the other city, and that basically yeah, so that they're maintained the next time you come in town, and then be open for changes, of course. But it's tricky though. It can be kind of stressful too, because it's like I would love to be there and rehearsing more and more, but it's just, yeah. I've even expressed I get kind of stressed out about it just because I'm not around. I express it to them once. I was like just in the middle of winter. I was like, oh my God, I wish I was there rehearsing with you guys so I could just know exactly what was going on with the tunes. But, and then we started communicating a little bit more about particulars and stuff. And me and the keyboard player, we actually do an aside thing instead of like a group chat on Facebook or whatever. Just me and her, Amy, will just we'll get together on the side and just talk about the parts, because our parts, me being a guitar player in the band, she being keys, our parts are very similar. And sometimes within a disco band where there's at least, usually at least 2 guitar players on any track, and then there's at least 2 synths and some piano on any disco song, and then there's a string section, and then there's sometimes some horns.
Yeah, it's a lot of ground to cover.
And then we also do backups. So yeah, it's so much to balance that we have to have a little side conference about all that stuff to make sure that the most important parts of the song are covered so that the groove is functioning and making people's butts move.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which ultimately is the name of the game.
Yes.
And this is the Go-Go Disco Band, which features a bunch of... I don't know.
That is the name.
I hesitate to... You always want to go for the cliche, St. John talent or prominent local musicians or whatever. Heavy hitters, let's say.
Yeah. No, it's the first time bass player Chuck Teed have played in a band together, ever. Been in a band together. We've played the odd thing, but been in a band together, and I've known him since the early 90s, which makes it, oh my God, 25 or more years.
Yeah.
I've known him, and we've not been in a band together. Anywho, yeah. And then there's Hillary Ladd singing, doing other stuff too. She's picked up a bass a little bit here and there and synth. Amy Stewart, keys, and doing some singing, lead and backup actually. And then Mr. Michael Hayes on the drums. Awesome, steady, tasteful, good drummer, nice guy.
Well, and then a serious drum dude too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. With a disco band, you need someone who's super solid and dependable and's got stamina, and Mr. Mike Hayes has all that and more.
Yeah.
And no, he's so steady. All the rhythmic things that I need to do on guitar and that Amy does on the piano are pretty syncopated things in disco. It's all 16th note oriented things. So for you musicians out there, my guitar playing, my rhythm arm is almost the whole night long strumming 16th notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's all falling in that sort of scheme of things.
Well, and you'd mentioned this before, were you really used to playing in that style or kind of aware of how it worked before you did this? You know what I mean? Because people have heard some of these songs before.
Yeah.
But in terms of physically actually playing it, do you find there's a difference? And the reason I ask for my own interest is I learned the song Jive Talkin', and I found the feel really hard to get. The guitar is kind of accenting the backbeats, but it's playing 16th notes the whole time.
And swung.
Yeah.
Not all bands did that, though. Yeah.
And the only other really guitar reference I have for disco would be Nile Rodgers, who's pretty percussive, I would say. Obviously he's playing kind of complex chords, but very
pretty
rhythmic
smooth
ideas.
at the same time, though.
Yeah.
And he, can turn on the swing or not. one of the first jams I did, I hadn't been, in that sort of band where I was doing that kind of strumming. And also I hadn't been doing any other kind of band where it was like a very demanding, like a physically demanding, steady thing like that. Like I've played lots of metal in my life, but I haven't done that in a few years, like been in a band where we practice every week or whatever. So I was actually, a little out of shape with the stamina end of things and that sort of style of steady 6/8 note playing, faster playing. And I remember the first jam we did, I think it was like, 10, 15 minutes into it, I was like, oh, okay. It wasn't like debilitating pain or anything, but I could just start to feel it, like where I was like trying to like keep up to the music and I was doing it. Well, I wasn't, not able to do it. Anyway, I was able to do it, but I could feel the tension starting to grow in my forearm. But then like it just sort of get a bit of a stretch, and then it was like, oh yeah, now I'm actually kind of warmed up and ready to go. But now it's like I can kind of pick up the guitar and just like I'm habitually warmed up into that. If I haven't touched it in a while, maybe it might be a little bit of a different story, but it's pretty good right now.
Okay, that's good. So I'm going to maybe back up a little bit. You say you've known Chuck Teed, who's also in the band since the early 90s. Do you know him through the music scene here?
Oh, yeah, totally. He was playing in a band called Play-Doh Fish, and I was playing in a band called Pawn Shop, and we were doing the same stuff. So we'd, one eye scowl at one another from across the room at the bar. No, just kidding. No, we became buds. Actually, I remember asking him, I was like studying jazz at St. FX on guitar, and I remember seeing him play at one of our shows and that we did together, and I was like, yeah, we should jam sometime. And then afterwards, he let me know he was like really nervous about it.
Oh, yeah?
Because he was a little bit younger, and I think he was still in high school, maybe. And I was just out of high school and studying the jazz, the serious stuff, But he was like always really, really good, even at that age. He was just, yeah.
He is, yeah, and he's a guy who I'm always surprised because he can, I know him as a bass player, but he can pick up a guitar and play it. Mm-hmm. He can sit down the drum kit and play it. Mm-hmm. And
yeah.
Plays drums left-handed. Is he left-handed? I don't know.
I don't think so.
He just plays drums open-handed.
Yes, he does open-handed, yeah. Yeah, I remember hearing him play on the local campus radio station, a live feed from somewhere playing drums. I think I'm pretty sure it was for the organizers, which is Judd Crandall and whatnot. And I think Alex Keeler couldn't make it or something, or I don't know who it was. But anyway, I remember thinking, oh my God, that's like some of the, like, that was like different style of drums. It was like much more simplistic, but it was like, actually sounded really cool because it was like super, like Chuck's got great meter.
Yeah, that's what I found too, very solid.
So his drumming was like that.
Yeah.
And not saying that the other guys didn't, but they were just more like busy and embellished in their playing, which suited their style.
Yeah, and Alex is a more kind of bouncy kind of drummer.
Yeah, oh yeah, totally. He's always got like a little bit of swing to it.
Yeah.
Yep. Which is awesome. Love his playing too. But yeah, it was just interesting to hear that band with more of like a straight deal, like more like a, I don't know. I was going to say AC/DC, but they even have a little bit of a swing to it. Anyway.
Right. Okay.
Simpler, anyway.
So, how'd you get into playing guitar? Is guitar your first instrument?
Yes.
And when did you take it up?
I took that up probably... my grandfather gave us some... What was it? A banjolele, I guess it was.
Really?
At some point, which got probably destroyed. And not understood.
My friend had it was like a
so.
60s Fender Jaguar.
Oh,
and
wow.
It was his dad's, and he used to shoot hockey pucks at it. He didn't know what it was. He just thought it was like a shitty old guitar.
Oh.
Yeah. I know, heartbreaking, right?
Oh my God. So, yeah. Yeah, it was a banjolele, and then, yeah, that got wrecked. And then there was a small acoustic guitar that it was more my little brother that was interested in it. But I was definitely like eyeing it, like, oh yeah, what's this? And I would pick it up every time he put it down. And it was actually it was left-handed because
Weird.
he is a left-handed guy.
Okay.
And then what?
Do you just have the one brother?
Two brothers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you the
So
oldest?
No, I'm the middle guy, and it was my younger brother that got the guitar.
Right.
And so yeah, he was a lefty, so the guitar was a lefty. I learned lefty, and that was when I was about maybe like 11 or 12. He's 3 years younger, so 8 or 9.
Yeah. Did you know the
His
difference at the time?
Lefty? Oh
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. But I was like, well, it's just here, so I'll just do it.
Right.
It's fun and it's cool, and I like all the music that my uncle liked and stuff like Kiss and all this stuff. Anyway, and other things. But my little brother Jamie, he eventually he just kind of gave up on it because I think at that time his hands, just being that age, just it wasn't really agreeing with him. Size of his hands or strength, or I can't remember exactly which, but he did give up on it, and I just kept on going because I was just at that age where it was like, it was a little bit bigger and whatnot. I think that was the story. Anyway, sticking to it.
Yeah.
And I kept on practicing it, and then I think at that point it was like my grandfather was like, "Oh, be a bit more serious about it." So it was then that it was given another guitar, but it was a right-handed guitar. So learn again.
You had to learn kind of the opposite of everything you knew.
Yeah. But at that age, I don't remember it being a big issue.
Right.
It was just a small learning curve. So yeah. So
I guess
probably
because
played.
you probably already knew the chord shapes. Yeah.
And my uncle gave me an electric guitar, which was awesome, Les Paul style. I guess that's probably why I'm so attached to that style of guitar. It's just like my first electric guitar was that. It wasn't like an actual Les Paul, but it was like a copy. I can't remember. It was like a Franken guitar where it was like the neck was different than the body or something. And anyway, always grateful for that. It looked pretty hot too.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Kind of a neat first guitar too. I feel like most people's first guitar is a Strat knockoff. First electric.
Yeah, and they're such the opposite to a Les Paul.
Yeah.
That, and this is going to bring stories full circle a little bit, that I've always, since then, I've always kind of been more of a humbucker guitar player. That's been the sound that I feel helps me express what I want to do more than anything. The odd time a single coil, but generally speaking, the humbucker. I guess it's just my early love of rock, I guess, and heavier things.
You have that Telly that you've played a lot.
I have had a Telly. I got that. I immediately got a humbucker as soon as I got that guitar, and got my buddy Heath Heath Foley. I remember, God, how long ago now? 25 years or more ago. Oh no, closer to 30. Anyway, to just route out the bridge and throw in the humbucker, like this pink DiMarzio PAF. And it was like, it was an okay sound. I probably could have picked a better pickup, but I was like, I was thinking to myself, at least it's a humbucker in there,
Right.
And then, I'd use the neck pickup for that was right before I went and studied jazz at St. FX, and I would use that neck pickup for that. And it's a great, solid guitar. That's the thing about those Tellys. But what I was going to say about the full circle thing was I was a humbucker guy. And that was the sound that I'm more in tune with. And I always thought to myself, Strats, like they feel nice, but it's just that single coil tone. It's just, I can't get down with it. It's just not me. And I've once in a while just tried it out and was like, God, they feel really nice. And John Frusciante and Jimi Hendrix and all these people make them sound so cool. There's something there. It's not for me right now, at least. So then disco band comes around, and I have like about 10 electric guitars or so, quite a variety. A lot of them have like splits, like the split coil situation that you can flick a switch and get the single coil. So I tried a bunch of those. With every rehearsal we did, I'd bring a different guitar, and none of them did the disco sound. Then I was like, oh, I think I'm going to have to get a Strat. And I did, and that was it. Then I was like, oh, now I get it.
Right.
Now I get it. Because I just love disco music. It's so fun.
After decades, is the Strat is that the disco guitar?
Yes. In my opinion. I mean, Nile Rodgers, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you do hear other guitars in the mix sometimes, like on, I don't know, like some Bee Gees stuff. You'll hear a little bit of Les Paul, or sometimes like, oh God, what else? You'll sometimes hear like a Les Paul in the middle position kind of thing. So it's kind of like really like soft, but kind of bell-like or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so to back up a little bit, when you first started playing guitar on your own, was it more of a thing that you did on your own, or were you looking to play in bands, or like how long between the time you picked up the instrument and the time that you started playing it with other people?
Let's see here. So 12, picked it up. And then it wasn't till high school that I actually started. Well, I would get together with a friend and just play guitar together. So, yeah. And learn from one another, like, and share ideas and stuff like that. So I wouldn't say that was like playing together.
Yeah.
That was just like, hanging out, but actually playing with people in a more of a band situation. That was high school, and that would have been 4 or 5 years after I picked up the acoustic.
Yeah. And so during that time, was that a goal, or were you just kind of doing it because it was fun? Were you thinking about kind of beyond just the instrument in front of you?
It's been so long that I can only assume that that's what I wanted to do, because here I am still.
Right, sure.
And also, even further back than that, as far as like playing with someone, I remember staying with my with my grandparents, where at the time I was probably, I was probably like 8 years old, maybe 7 or 8, and I was staying with my grandparents because my mom was having some surgery or something, I think, and I stayed with them for like a while she was healing. Dad was working and stuff. Anyhow, my uncle was living at my grandparents' at the time, and he had his band rehearsals in the basement.
Yeah.
And there was drums. And my uncle loved Kiss, and therefore I loved Kiss.
Right.
So much. So he would and they had like some stage lights. This was like the 70s, like late 70s. So that people would have like their own stage lights to bring to gigs, and their own PA. Like there was house PA, I don't think was as much of a thing back in those days. So they had all that and stage lights, and he would be like, yeah, we'd listen to Kiss, Destroyer, that album cover still. I look at it and I get goosebumps.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. That's another story. But he would bring me down the basement when the grandparents were out, and he was like, here, just go sit on the drums and just like, here's some sticks, and I'm just gonna like play loud guitar while you beat the crap out of the drums, and put the stage lights on.
Yeah.
With the house lights off, and yeah, thanks, Phil. That warped my brain.
Well, no kidding, but it's so exciting as a kid.
It was. Oh, I will never forget the feeling of doing that. I probably just made just the most disgusting racket on them with no beat whatsoever.
I mean, but as most people do when they sit down at a drum, as somebody who's had a drum kit in my house, like people see them and they want to sit down, and what they do just start hitting stuff. They don't know what.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
kind
and
of
he
sound to make.
just probably played some power chords and let them ring, and then just let me go. It was just like basically like a big Van Halen ending for 20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, probably got
This sort of thing.
You do it too.
Yeah. But no, and I used to as far as Kiss is concerned, when I was a kid, my uncle, also thank you, Phil, for that, Philip Vautour, and the Destroyer album cover and just all the album covers, Just to Kill and everything. I would fill scrapbooks with my drawings of Kiss. I would just draw the faces, draw them on stage, draw barfing blood on the stage, and just, infatuated with them.
What do you think it was that appealed so strongly about that band?
Well, I did love the music, the way it sounded, but it was a combination.
Uh-huh.
The visuals were, I was a kid, they're cartoons.
Yeah, totally.
Well, they weren't exactly cartoons, but like, it was like a movie or something. And they had movies.
Uh-huh.
Friggin' smart. They might be dinks, but they're smart.
Yeah, sure.
And I don't know them personally. I've actually watched interviews where it was like they made the interviewer take off their Iron Maiden shirt, and they were like, "How dare you wear that in a Kiss interview?" I was like, "Really?
Yeah.
You made them take off an Iron Maiden T-shirt." I don't know.
Well, especially because that seems to be just kind of an established part of rock culture. So much so that it's almost weird to wear, like if you're going to a show, to wear the shirt of the band that's playing. I don't know if it's necessarily weird exactly, but I think I just remember reading an article about that where the person's like, yeah, we know you like this band. You're at the show. You don't have to, wear your Rolling Stones shirt to the Rolling Stones show or whatever.
Yeah.
Where it's, I would think, I don't know. I kind of missed that wave of metal where I was too young, but to me it always seems like a bit of a subculture where it's like I'm into this whole thing. I'm into this whole scene. I'm not into it because I just really love one band and I don't like any other bands.
Yep. I mean, there's definitely part of that, I think, in there. But then there's part of it, case-to-case scenario too, right? Person-to-person scenario where, that is just genuinely, I just happen to friggin' like all these bands of that scene or whatever, and I hate hate that pop crap or whatever,
Yeah.
But then I do believe there's, I feel like I probably fell into that when I was a teenager where it was like, well, I don't know. I used to listen to jazz and classical when I was a teenager. But I definitely was so curious about all this new metal music that was coming out that I was just constantly searching and looking like any young person I would, and, not as much today. I actually look, more backward to things that happened, maybe when I was little and wasn't aware of anything beyond the radio or even before that, like 60s, 70s, like stuff.
Yeah.
Like this, like new old music.
Yeah, I find I do that too because there's a lot of it that I wrote off as a younger person. And I think it kind of is important for culture that young people do that where when you are a kid, when you're a teenager, like you're looking for an identity and you
Yeah.
figure out how you fit into the world. You want to know what's happening right now, and you
Yep.
want to
Totally.
also like get out of your parents' house and see what's going on in the world or whatever.
Yep.
Or kind of whatever thing you're brought up in. But as you get older, I know, like things like I hated the Rolling Stones forever. When I was a kid, I thought like Bob Dylan was lame music for old people.
Yep.
And now you listen to that stuff and you're like, man, this stuff is genius.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, and I would say probably in the case of both artists, like I really am talking about the 60s stuff and I haven't, they've been putting out albums since then that I haven't listened to.
Yeah.
And not that there aren't gems, I'm sure, throughout, but
Yeah.
the Stones are funny, like because I did become a fan through going back to the 60s stuff. And I will listen to things like I got into Voodoo Lounge recently, listening to that.
Oh yeah. What's on that?
I don't remember.
That's like 90s, right?
Yeah, it's 90s. And I remember that coming out and me being a kid and be like, oh God, the Rolling Stones are
Anybody
so
seen My Baby? Is that on it?
I don't know. I didn't get very deeply into it. I like spun it for about a week because you can just do that now with streaming.
Yeah. You know about that song and the lawsuit and everything.
Oh no, that one's on Bridges to Babylon.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, the Katie Lang kind of ripoff. Yeah, Keith Richards talks about that in his life book.
Yeah.
Which I got on audiobook, which you can just get from the Halifax Library.
Right.
I downloaded it to my phone from the library.
Isn't it? Okay, I think I heard the story. Can I guess? That he was like, oh, I never letting Mick Jagger write a song again because he always ends up ripping something off.
Yeah,
Is
well,
that the story?
He said like he will kind of hear something and then walk around humming it for a week, and then at the end of the week he thinks he wrote it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's an easy thing to do. Oh my God, I've ripped off things and went, oh, and then a little while afterwards been like, wow, I just lifted that inadvertently. Didn't even think about it.
Dude, I came up with I was trying to think of a name for my own indie band project, and I was like thinking like I like names that sound like Beatles, Beach Boys, Beastie Boys, even the band Bleachers that I don't listen to, but I just was at that time like feeling that kind of thing, and I don't even know how the name Beach Chair popped into my head, but I was like, huh. And not that I particularly liked it, but I looked it up on Spotify. I was like, it's not taken. Every other name I've thought of has been taken.
Yeah.
This one is not. Cool, I'm on it. And then 2 or 3 months later, I realized that it's a beer that Gahan, like PEI Brewing Company, makes a beer called Beach Chair Lager, and it's like the official beer of Cavendish Beach Music Festival.
Hey, Beach Chair beer business idea. You could hook up with them.
Yeah, maybe. Well, it's funny though, having been through, it's a thing I've been thinking about lately, because it's like not that band or whatever you want to call it is super active. I've played one show. But I have been through that with Glory, Glory, Man United already. And for like 5 years, they're like, no, we're not changing our name. You know, this is what we're called. Yeah. And then we changed our name.
Yep. Yep.
So you kind of wanted to do that before it gets out of the gate. But anyway, what I was going to say about Voodoo Lounge, band is great. Lyrics are not good. But as a kid, I wouldn't have been able to separate that anyway. And it also wasn't as heavy as I wanted it to be.
Right. You're listening to punk rock and stuff.
Yeah. But there's a couple of interesting things about it. I found that in the first or second tune, there's like a hiccup in the drum beat that, especially in now, because it would have been still recorded to tape at the time. Now with digital recording, like any new band, like that would never end up on the record. There's just like is a cymbal where it's like almost like hitting the cymbal was an afterthought or something, but probably it was a full band take.
Right.
So he kind of hits the cymbal just a little bit late. I can't remember exactly what it is.
Right.
But I was really surprised when I heard it, and then it corrects itself pretty quickly. But probably just the take felt good, and they left it in. They've been doing it ever.
Yeah.
So who cares? It's the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that, actually.
Yeah, it is. It is good. I mean, you
Just
do
to-
have to kind of disregard the lyrics. But whatever. Okay, so anyhow, I'm sidetracking here. So you started playing in bands in high school. You were playing metal at the time?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, very interested in metal.
And was that a natural outgrowth of just like being a Kiss fan or whatever as a kid? And that was like
Probably, yeah.
the music kind of evolved into.
Yeah, and like I was heavily into that and Van Halen and Ozzy Osbourne and like the different guitar players there. It was a very good, like I was playing guitar. So it was almost like, well, my uncle plays guitar, my grandfather plays guitar, grandfather plays acoustic. Kind of learned how to do that. I could have learned better. But, and then I was like, okay, my uncle plays the sexy electric rock guitar. That's what I'm going to dive into.
Yeah.
So, and then it's like, well, what kind of music does that? Oh, hard rock, heavy metal,
Totally.
80s, Kiss, Van Halen, all Ozzy, Whitesnake, Dokken. I used to love Dokken.
Yeah.
And anyway, I could go on and on about what I loved. But
Because that was also the heyday of the electric guitar in that way.
yes, like the guitar players were just so good and they expressed themselves in really interesting and very, advanced kind of ways.
Yeah.
Right? All coming from, Jimmy Page, Richie Blackmore, Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton, whatever, Tony Iommi, all that stuff. But, oh my God, stretch. So, I don't know, I'm getting kind of sidetracked in my own brain here. So, yeah, guitar, when I started, it was, hard rock. That was the best guitar players, in my opinion, at the time. So I went down that path, did as much as I could, bought magazines, watched videos. I used to watch this home video of like Van Halen live without a net. It was called at my grandparents' house. Every Sunday after church or whatever, we'd go there and hang out. My uncle was living there at the time, and whatever, and we'd hang out and we would put that videotape on, Van Halen live without a net, like so many Sundays in a row, and it'd just be like, oh my God, I love the albums, but look at that. And listen to the way he plays while he is jumping around the stage, and Sammy Hagar was screaming. This was like the first.
That's
the
Sammy
5150.
Hagar. What
just
kind of crowd
started.
would they be playing to?
People.
Yeah, man. I saw.
Lots of people.
Well, this was a thing that really kind of struck me, and I think it's a thing that we maybe don't understand as much in the modern era, where like U2, or I guess like the Rolling Stones, or Metallica, I guess could play to crowds that big, but it's always surprising to. I saw some Van Halen record in a record shop, and the back cover was them playing to this massive crowd.
Yep.
This giant
They set
stage.
some records back in the day.
What's that?
They definitely, I believe, set some records for some attendance back in the day.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
playing on a stage that looked to be made of speakers.
Yeah. And
Cool. So what was your first band?
First band would have been in, let's see, oh wait. Probably, okay, first band that would have played a show. Okay, that was a band called Cliffhanger.
Nice.
In high school. And that was with Corey Long and Jamie Kennedy. And then we had bass players come and go. But it was mostly like two guitars and a drummer. And then if we ever found a bass player, we were lucky. And so, yeah, we did covers. Corey wrote a couple of originals that we threw in there. And, that was in high school. And we did like April Wine and Van Halen, and God, we actually did some Queen. We did the song Dragon Attack, which has a great riff.
Nice one.
Yeah, it's a good riff. And we did some Deep Purple. Black Knight, actually, was the song. It was a cool song. Yeah, and some BTO.
Did you guys record?
Not really. Just the old Ghetto Blaster jam tapes kind of thing.
Yeah.
But no, we didn't record. And that was my first show I ever played in like the high school variety show kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exciting. You got a taste?
Yeah.
How did it go over?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
We got egged.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And, you know, I think I know who it was. I think it was, I always heard that it was Manoli, which was like a musician from St. Max. But hey, if you listen to this.
He's like a bit of a legend locally.
Oh, yeah, he's a great singer.
Only.
He's a great singer, and I've gigged with him before and stuff. So it's just funny to look back. I don't even know if that's true or not. So if you're listening to this, you can let me know if it's true or not. And if it's not true, hey, I'm sorry for mentioning it. Just funny, high school bull like that.
Yeah.
Whatever. At the time, I was just like enraged because I was like, this is my first friggin' show.
Yeah.
And I was like, that landed there. And I was like, but I remember at the same time, I was like, enraged, but I let it go real quickly, though. It's like a very big heat of emotion. Then it was just like, gone. Just let it go and just got into the music. I think the rage came back as soon as I stepped off stage.
Oh, yeah.
But it didn't really freaking last or whatever.
Were you worried about your gear? Like
no,
getting your guitar hit with an egg?
No, it was just like, this was a special moment to me.
Right.
And then someone's like, not respecting that in the moment, Now I would probably laugh my guts out and like sploosh I'd probably jump in it like a kid on a rainy day in a mud puddle.
Yeah.
Just because I'm just dumb like that sometimes.
I get that,
and
though.
have fun.
It's a big deal.
I don't care.
Okay, so so you were doing that. I've always known you as somebody who played in multiple bands. Were you doing that in high school?
I know you were going to talk about that.
What's that?
I know you were going to talk about that. Yeah, that is me. But high school, no, that wasn't me in high school at all. I remember in high school, actually, it was I was taking guitar lessons from Mark Hill, amazing guitar player, guitar teacher. Thanks a lot for everything you did for me, Mark, if you listen to this. And my marks in school started to slip a little bit.
Yeah.
And then the lessons got yanked. I was like, oh, crap. But that didn't stop me from practicing like 4 hours a day or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I guess that was the only other juggling thing with the high school band stuff was just... lessons when I had them. But, yeah.
That's a thing, though. I found my marks slipped through high school, and I know they're not supposed to because you're supposed to try to get into university or whatever. But I also think as you discover what it is you're actually into,
Yeah.
and usually that's not whatever you're learning in school, or maybe it's one thing that you're learning in school.
Yeah.
But it's not likely to be everything.
Yeah, like English or whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I was so into it. And I didn't even go to St. FX right after school. I was just kind of took a year to myself. I think I was just starting to get into meeting local musicians and playing around a little bit. And yeah, I remember picking up the bass, actually. And that's just started my path down that road, which, it was the classic, buddy of mine has a band, but they need a bass player.
Yeah.
And, I guess I'll try. I play guitar. Can't be that different. And I just tried it, and I was like, oh, this is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I just stuck with it and had fun and grew to be good friends with all them, and played shows and traveled here and there a little bit, but just fell in love with the bass because it was like I took lessons from like my grandfather a little bit and my uncle, and then Mark Hill. A lot of lessons and stuff, and also doing a lot of my own, like just figuring stuff out with magazines and just, trying things. And then after, 4, maybe 5 years of that, I did this bass thing where I just picked it up with, and I just started playing with a band. Sink or swim, just throw yourself in. And it was the funnest thing just to express myself in that lower register, in that role in a band, and it just really super agreed with me. Like, I still love playing guitar, but I think over the past 5 years or more, I've come to, over a life of, being, a double instrument person, I've kind of sort of like the scales have tipped with my love of an instrument, and it's bass. It's totally bass. I just love playing bass.
Wow.
I love playing guitar too, but if I had to pick one, I can honestly say I would pick bass over guitar.
Really?
Yeah. Mind you, if I was all by myself on a desert island, might be guitar, actually.
Well, it's a different thing, right? And that kind of is the thing about the guitar, is that it is one of those instruments, like it's a backup instrument, but it also is an instrument that it's enough if you only have it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whereas if you have a bass, you can definitely play it on your own, but you're not going to like sit around and play songs. Same thing with the drums.
Yeah. When I play bass on my own, I end up just trying all kinds of things that make it sound a bit more than what you would do in a band.
Well, I was saying, but even within a band, like you do a lot on the bass also, like in the Jessie Brown band.
Yeah.
Especially where she is playing just keys, so you are the kind of the bass and the guitar.
Yeah, we sort of straddle that line quite often. Her keys often sounds a little bit guitarish.
It does.
And then also my bass sounds a little bit like that too.
Yeah.
So we kind of between us, we kind of do bass and guitar sometimes because she has a, keyboard. So it's her, left hand, does some of that too.
Sure.
So it's a little bit of juggling. And in the beginning, when Adrian, the guitar player, left, because we were a 4-piece at one time, when he left, we're like, well, let's just try this 3-piece thing, see how it goes. And it was tricky to try to get it to, work all that, bass and guitar and left hand and with the bass at the same time, but made it work and found a way of sort of operating, I guess, and it definitely influenced my style.
Well, I would think like now all of a sudden you've got a lot more space.
Yeah. 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 So I end up doing a lot more with effects just because the bass is just more present.
Right.
Because there is less there.
Yeah.
So different songs, I'll, give a different vibe just through the tone with effects. And then sometimes I'll just, play a little bit more, I hate to say busy, but just more ornamental.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, you'll just have to check it out, people.
That's right.
Jessie Brown.
Would you say that playing the guitar gave you a good foundation for the bass? And I'll tell you why I ask this.
Yeah.
Because I'm somebody, like I play guitar, but I'm very much like a rhythm chord kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
I started off playing acoustic like a lot of people do. And then got into like punk, like in the 90s, which is very much like rhythm and power chords. Not a lot of playing lines. So I find playing the bass, I enjoy it on when I'm playing it on my own. When I play with other people, I find it difficult because while my rhythm is solid, I find it really hard to play lines because I don't know where the notes are. So I'm not used to playing leads on the guitar. So I can kind of like you can make your best guess at what this note is going to be if you go to like I know what note I want to play and I know where I think it might be on the fretboard, but if it's wrong, you know right away.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, what was the original question
The
again?
question was, did playing guitar first
Yeah.
make the bass, I don't know, more natural or more fun or easier?
Right. So, I mean, I only have my own experience to speak from, but I will say yes.
Yeah.
It definitely. Now, I kind of feel like there's some hindrance to it, and there's some real help in learning guitar first. In the help, I feel like just understanding, well, the fretboard for one and the notes, sure. And then also, and probably more importantly, just chords
Yeah.
and how they work and how they function. And the fact that you're playing chords on the bass, but you're not playing chords on the bass.
You're playing chords one note at a time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, at times.
Yeah.
Or you're taking just one of those notes and you're sitting on it. A lot of times it's the roots. Sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's none of them, none of the chord tones.
Yeah.
And it works beautifully. Hindrance side of things, I would say just the whole playing the bass like a guitar side of things. I think a lot of people just know immediately, and musicians know what I'm talking about. It's an easy trap to get into, and you know what? Sometimes it sounds awesome. Some people just do it, and it's like that works great.
Yeah.
And then some people, it's like, yeah, that's playing guitar on the bass, and that just is in the way.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's because your guitar style is very busy and, like B.B. King or something. I'm not saying B.B. King's bad at all, but I'm just saying B.B. King plays lead a whole lot, not much rhythm guitar, and he's like interspersing it. If I played bass like that might be kind of funny sometimes.
Not going to work.
It's, all contexts and situations, but, anyway.
Well, I think of my own bands when I started out, and somebody owns a bass, but nobody really knows how it's different from a guitar. You know what I mean?
Oh my God! I never owned a bass for like 2 years when I started playing bass.
Yeah,
I had like a little personal list of people that I could call and borrow a bass from. Most times there was one just sitting there at the guitar player's place that was a friend of his that just left his bass there. Excuse me. But yeah, I would have to sometimes borrow a bass. And I remember I had a list in my little phone book because back in the 90s, no cell phones. So I had a little tiny address book. And there was like a little section in the back. It was like about 10 people. Basses I could borrow. Oh my God. Thank you, each and every one of you, if I borrowed.
That's funny in that it seems like you in that situation you have no choice but to not get too attached to any particular piece of gear.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I eventually got my own crappy bass. It wasn't crappy, actually. The amp was crappy, but yeah. But no, it was interesting too. Just like you say, playing on different instruments and, I guess test driving in a way, really.
Totally.
Yeah.
And also learning to deal with different, because I can only imagine the electronics are different. Maybe the setup is different on each one.
Yeah, like some of them I'd borrow and they'd be active electronics.
Yeah.
And set up and everything. Some of them were short scale, and one of them was neon orange.
Oh, wow.
Like it was like it hurt the eyes to look at. It was good bass though.
What was it?
Oh, I don't even remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I ended up getting a nice purple bass, like a lavender purple Yamaha. It was a pretty sexy little thing.
Oh,
It was
yeah?
good. Yeah. It was fun to play. I think it was a short scale too, actually.
Which helps the transition from guitar to bass. Or maybe you didn't care.
I didn't care.
Yeah.
Because like I got big fingers and I'm tall and stuff, so it's not a huge ordeal for me to jump. It actually feels, almost weird for me to play a short scale just because it's like, it's cool, but it's like, I know that I'm playing in that low register when I have to move more and stretch more and,
Okay.
and the frets are bigger. It's just a feel wise, it's like I am playing bass when it's that.
Right.
Without even playing a note yet, I just pick it up and I'm like, yes.
You're in
I'm
that
in it.
zone.
Yeah, exactly.
And for everybody who's listening and doesn't know what we're talking about, a short scale bass guitar. So a bass guitar has a much bigger neck than a regular guitar, or like I don't know if much bigger is accurate, but it's bigger.
Yeah.
It's longer for sure. The frets are wider. So a short scale bass is shorter.
Yeah, and because of that, to get down to the pitch, the strings are generally looser too.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't
that's the
realize
way
that.
I've always kind of like saw it. I don't own one, but every time I pick it up, it's like, yeah, this is like easier to play.
Yeah.
Because it's smaller and whatnot. But yeah, also, yeah,
To get that low sound.
yeah, I think so. Because like the length of the string gives you, when tuned to pitch, it'll be different tensions depending on the length of the string.
Yeah.
Right. Because length of the string is everything with pitch.
Yeah.
Right. The higher up you play on the fretboard, the shorter the string section that is vibrating, right, etc.
Yeah.
So on and so forth.
For the same reason that a more full glass of water will give you a higher pitch if you tap on it.
That was empty. That was just a little bit of water in there.
Yeah. All right. So how'd you end up at St. FX?
Car, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's funny.
2 feet and a heartbeat, not good enough for you?
Yeah. Not tough. So, yeah, I took a year off high school, and then I was like, well, I better do something with me life. And then I was like, I'm going to do this because I do love jazz, and I do want to get better, and I guess I'll do this.
Right.
And I also had that year off in between where I was, playing and whatnot. But then I also visited St. FX a couple times to visit my good friend Matthew Delzell at the time, who was going there and studying other things. I visited him, and when I did, I came to meet other, like on his floor in his residence, some music students, Pete Davison.
Right.
Yep. I met him and hung out with him a whole bunch the first time I met him. I was like, what's it like? Blah, 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 blah. What do you study? Can I see some of your books? I just was just immediately asking 50 questions in a minute. And then I think I visited again and I was like, yeah, I'm coming here. So that was a huge part of me going.
Right.
That. Then I went for 2 years. It was awesome. Met some people I still keep in contact with, and I'll always remember that time. It was really, really good. I practiced so fucking much, pardon my French, but it was a lot. I never got any problems with my hands, which was great. That you'd hear of people, practicing so much that they got some problems, but physical problems. But yeah, it was awesome. I learned a lot. Very thankful to be able to get to do that. And I basically jumped out of the program after 2 years. It was a 4-year program that I was enrolled in without a certificate or a diploma or whatever, or a bachelor degree. And I was fine with that. I was like, yeah, I've gotten what I needed out of this situation.
Yeah.
I'm good. I just want to get playing. In hindsight, I kind of wish I went a little longer because
Really?
right now I just love listening to jazz. I have the sort of want to play jazz, but life is just like, I gotta find the time to devote to it, and it's jazz. It's like very, very intense as far as
It's
like
so demanding.
It's so demanding, yeah, exactly. So right now is like just not great.
Yeah.
But I always kind of like mess around with it, and I've always used the tools that I've learned, all the harmony things, all the just the ideas and approaches of learning that I learned there, and some of the concepts, like just the whole idea about melody being the most important thing in any music. It's just, and yeah, Skip Beckwith, teacher there, great teacher. He was like a artist in residence, I think.
Oh, I don't know. He was like the bass, bass guy when I was there.
Yeah, he was bass as well, but
Also, Anne Murray's former musical director.
yes. So I just remember him. This is the story, and I'm sticking to it. I hope I get it right, or I had it right all these years. But it's funny, and it made a lot of sense though. It was he walked into our ensemble classroom, and he drew a coat hanger on the chalkboard, and he asked the class, "What is that?" And everyone said, "That's a friggin' coat hanger. Are you an idiot?" They didn't say that, but he said, "Nope, that's the melody." And we're all like, "Okay, smoke another one,
Right.
why don't you?" But then he went on to say, "That's the melody. If you don't have that, your clothes are on the floor looking like shit." And then we all laughed because it's like, that's a good one, Skip. Smoke another.
Yeah.
But then he got talking and talking more and more about melody. And I think, I speak from my own personal thoughts on that day. As he was speaking, the weight of what he said about the melody being a coat hanger and everything, your clothes are everything else in music. It's the rhythm, it's the chords, it's the parts, the tempo, whatever, or the beat, and anything. All that stuff, if you don't have melody, you don't have anything. Everything else is going to be shit. That is something that, like, I should probably tattoo on myself, because it's something that I take pretty friggin' seriously still, and I'll always remember that. And it just hit me, and I was like, light bulb moment.
So, did you come back to St. John after school?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I enrolled to get some electives and just keep learning a bit and stuff at UMBSJ. I don't even know if it was to like see if I could get a diploma out of it, but I just did like one part-time course at UMBSJ when I came back, and I don't even know if I finished it.
Yeah.
I was just like, screw this.
Uh-huh.
I basically got back, and I think might have been that summer, 94.
Mm-hmm.
I just started playing bass with like Brent Mason.
Yeah. And how'd you hook up with him?
It was an open mic night, so I was just there, and I was like, yeah, I'm looking to play. I don't even remember exactly how, it was just fell in.
Just happened.
Yeah, into the stew. Oh yeah, I'm sure Pawn Shop, my band that I learned to play bass on, played at open mic night a couple times and got to meet those guys and everything, and plus I just got out of school too, so I was like really just wanting to gig, and I open mic night every Wednesday night at O'Leary's.
Still to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did it for like 10 years before I moved to Halifax.
Wow.
And it was a little off and on, but mostly on. And it was perfect timing for me as far as like getting out of 2 years of school, studying jazz, and having a weekly gig where I was sometimes learning stuff on stage.
Yeah.
Just like using all that stuff I learned, all those tools on stage while stuff was happening and being able to pull stuff out of my ass and make it sound good.
Right.
I think, like, I'm pretty sure it sounded pretty decent. And if not, whatever, it's done.
Yeah.
No, we had a lot of fun, though.
Would you play all night?
So what we did was we do like an opening set where, did 45 minutes of Brent Mason originals with some covers thrown in. Then we'd have, people come up and do their thing, whether it was covers, originals, and I would always be like, being young 20s, someone at a school, and just like eager to play with everybody and anybody. I'd always be like, "Do you want me to play something with you there? You?" And half the time people would be like, "Yeah, sure, I'd love that." So me and Peter Doyle, and back then it was John Brown on violin and guitar. Peter Doyle was playing percussion. We would sometimes just stay up there, and I would just ask them what key it was in, maybe what chords, and if there was a weird bridge or anything like that, or maybe I would know the song already, and just go for it, count it in, and let's have fun. It was awesome. I learned so much, though. It was like taking all the stuff that I learned at St. FX and learning more about it because I was applying all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? In the real friggin' world. And just, all that stuff came into play. Yeah. And it's all, having, a little better sense of structure, of rhythm, of chords, of options, of, what was I going to say? Yeah, stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a situation too where, I mean, obviously, the band that you're playing with, the Brent Mason band, is going to play the same set or similar set week to week. But then you've got, I think everybody kind of has their kind of set of songs that they do or whatever. Like, would it be a lot of repeat performers?
Yeah.
Because it was also really busy around that time, wasn't it?
Yeah. It always came and went, like, different times of the year, different years.
Yeah.
But, that was back in the day when smoking inside was still a thing. And, but yeah, it was busy, and yeah, people would come and do their thing.
You can try different ideas out on these songs is what I'm thinking of.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, it's kind of a beautiful thing to be able to just like have it be open like that. And I always loved it. And I think, people would come there and, get their sea legs, so to say, like just in performing, getting used to the idea of getting up on stage and allowing themselves to be open, and even more open to the point of also allowing other musicians who you may not have played with before play with you.
Yeah.
Like that's a new level of being open, right?
Well, and it changes the way that you can approach it too. Because I've had, like, I have done that myself, and especially as a way of getting out from behind the drum kit. Having played in an original band, you start to learn that if you want to keep playing shows, you got to develop a following, get people out, or else nobody's going to book you, and blah blah. There's a lot involved in getting people. There's like a whole promotional side to. If you want to be gigging as an original thing. But in a situation like that, you can just get up on stage. And what can really be surprising is if you've got this stuff that you've only ever worked on at home, you've never played it in front of an audience, all of a sudden there's a whole different set of considerations. One of them being like, how is this music, is it connecting with the people?
Yeah.
But also even like, maybe your lyrics that meant so much to you when you were writing them down, you are trying to remember to sing into a microphone and somebody walks by and you forget the line that you're about to sing.
Yep. Yep. Oh, yeah. The bedroom to stage. Yeah, totally. Not that I'm a huge, songwriter with, regards to lyrics concerned. I suck at that. I wish I was way better. I love playing with people that are great lyricists, like Brent, for example. But, the whole, getting out of the bedroom thing, right? Just seeing what floats.
Yeah, exactly.
And how you feel about it.
Yeah.
Maybe you might go like you said, like you might feel something strongly and then just get totally distracted. Or you might be like, wow, I don't ever want to say those words again.
Totally.
Or on the other side of the fence, my buddy Chris Fudge, what he would do is he would go up with a song that he'd have a melody and a guitar part, a couple words, and just, he's done this a few times where he's like a total unfinished song, but just get up there and sing it. He might sing the same verse over and over again. He might actually, in the moment, have something new.
Right.
And that's another level of being open, right? And just at an open mic night and just go for it. Or he might even just like hum the melody.
Yeah.
Just very unafraid. I was, was very, not envious, but just like appreciative of him, going to that length with his songwriting and his, not being afraid of, doing that sort of thing.
Well, it's cool to watch somebody do that. And it is also a thing that, as maybe if you study music or if you're really serious about it, that can get in your way where you think that it needs to be really good or it needs to be perfect before you can perform. And taken to an extreme, there's always going to be something wrong with it. You're going to not feel ready or whatever. So it's easy to just not do anything.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it's cool to see somebody take those chances for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and then we'd, at the open mic night thing, we would also just sometimes break out into some good old jams.
Yeah.
Right? And just make up things right in the spot, which I love doing.
Yeah.
I think I have a good time with it, and I feel like when I do it, I have my own sort of rules of doing it when I do it, and it's just wide open. I try to only play when I feel like playing.
Yeah.
Especially if there's like, a bunch of people on stage. I don't have to be playing all the time.
Uh-huh.
I can wait.
Yeah.
Or sort of the other side of the fence. If I am playing something and I get tired of it, I can stop.
Yeah.
Right? I can stop and then wait till that new inspiration comes. Or maybe that thing that I was playing, it's time for that to come back.
Right.
I feel that fire burning up a little bit, and then it's like, it's coming back. Now here's the time. Or maybe it's just like, screw that old idea. We're going new,
It's a thing that I find like that can be tough as a drummer because the nature of what you're doing is like you're keeping a pattern going, and the things that can creep in are like, well, is this boring? Like I'm just playing a beat, I should do something to like spice it up.
Yeah.
And that is sometimes that's fine, sometimes it's cool, and sometimes it's totally unnecessary.
Yep.
And then the other thing that can happen is you think that you can't change it because you're keeping this thing this steady pattern going, and people are relying on me, I guess. So I found like for myself, I get really locked into one of those two things.
Yeah.
And having that kind of awareness is so valuable in a jam situation because especially like you go see bands who are really good and you're like, well, they're not playing all the time. And that's what makes the set exciting.
Yep. Yeah, totally. And then there's just like that even bigger picture thing where it's like, you know, I am a cog in the machine
Yeah,
of what is now.
exactly.
And it doesn't matter how, it matters how I feel about what I'm doing, but it matters more about how I feel about the overall thing and what my piece in it is, right? As opposed to like so focused on, you know, what I'm doing and listening to what I'm doing. All the other things are affecting me and what I am doing in that moment because, well, I feel like they should be, especially in a situation where it's like completely improvised, right? It's a conversation.
Absolutely.
It's a communication between one another. And if you're not doing that, it's a different sound.
Well, it is. And it's so much about listening. And that's the thing that I've found too, even again, playing drums in bands. It's like when I feel the worst about what I'm playing and like it's not gelling or it's not feeling good, those tend to be the times when I'm just focusing on what I'm doing. And if I can forget about that and pay attention to everybody else,
Yeah.
then all of a sudden that disappears.
Yep.
You
Yep.
start to feel good. Then the other thing about it is if I can get to the point where I don't have to be like so closely monitoring everything I'm doing, it can be, part of it is comfort and maybe proficiency. With the instrument where it's like I don't have to be so concentrated on it to worry that I'm not going to screw it up. But then I'm just listening to and responding to everything else. I play better. I play what's appropriate, and it's more fun too because you're thinking. Because now all of a sudden you're like, you really feel more. I don't know. You feel more connected to what's going on, and you feel. As a drummer, the role changes from like, do people think I'm any good to like, man, I'm driving this whole thing.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, I feel like that on bass.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Big time.
totally. Because you're the backbone, and you're like, it's funny because
That's why I love it so much because I feel like I have so much control over the situation. Control freak. But yeah, over the sound, bass has so much to say.
right.
When a bass drops, you feel it.
You feel it.
Big. And it's that moment where, people are like, oh, I guess I hear the bass, but you really hear it when you really hear its function when it's not there all of a sudden.
Uh-huh.
It's like that, yeah.
Well, that's what I was just thinking as you're saying that. It's because it's almost like I have all this control and nobody knows it but me.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah, that's, I think, maybe part of why I'm in love with bass so much and how it's like, yeah, that's more me, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like controlling, but you don't even know it.
Yeah, like I'm getting away with it. Because there are certain things too, like certain...
I'm in the shadows.
Well, like a straight drum beat can sound boring on its own, but then you put a syncopated something else with it, and all of a sudden it's like the grooviest thing you've ever heard.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I always, in trying to make students understand kind of what the drummer's role is, because the other thing is like kids go to drum lessons, they don't know. They just want to hit stuff and go crazy, and they think that's what drumming is. You're like, actually, most of it is playing beats, and they're all like, they'll play it twice, and they think, is that good?
Yeah.
You're like, well, no, you have to do that for a whole song. Oh,
Yeah.
that's impossible,
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But what I always try to say to them is like, you're playing the part of the music that people dance to. So people should be able to bob their head along with whatever you're doing. You should be able to move to it. But often, I think you can get people to dance to a drum beat on its own. But often it's the case that will give you like sort of like this is the thing that you clap with. But it's like the bass or it's like whatever other instrument is getting in there and kind of syncopating against it that really makes you feel it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Syncopation.
Tasty. So what? I don't want to take up too much of your time here, but I am interested. What prompted you to move to Halifax, and when did that happen?
2004.
Mm-hmm.
And I, at the time, was basically, in a nutshell, looking for some change. And just one day, my buddy and yours, Michael Bellier, popped into the record store I was working in, and he was living in Halifax at the time.
Yeah. Playing in
And
Ermine with Chuck Teed.
yes, and his brother Matt.
Yeah.
And he was also playing with a guy named Mr. John Epworth.
Uh-huh.
And I had been a fan of John Epworth's for, maybe a year before that or so. I was like, oh, yeah. And he was just saying, how you doing? I'm like, I don't know, I kind of need something, switch something up.
Yeah.
And he was like, I can't remember if he said, why don't you move to Halifax and play with John? But that idea, he might have said, why don't you move to Halifax? That, idea of playing with John was like immediate. It was like, ooh, that is a person I actually really want to play with, like badly.
Yeah.
So, and I had met him before that. We've hung out and stuff at Mike's place in Halifax when I had visited there previously. And so I got talking to him and I was like, listen, I really want to play with you and whatnot, and we'll just try it out or whatever, But I'm so excited to do this because I feel like it's a good thing. And it was, as we both kind of guessed it would be.
Right.
And, and I just, moved there in late November and played, December, first gig with John, which actually was supposed to be the bass player in the band was Shane Kerr, but he wasn't around for that gig, so it was actually Chuck Teed.
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
Where was the show?
At the Khyber.
Okay. Who'd you play with?
It was with Mike Catano's band.
Is that North of America?
No. I want to say that one with Lowell and...
Oh,
and
Holy
Mike
Shroud.
Bigelow. Holy Shroud.
Was that band?
It might have been them. But anyway, yeah. Yeah, so it was just a change that I wanted in my life, and then it just accumulated or came to be that it was playing with John Epworth, and
Yeah.
it was awesome, and Mike and Shane. So, yeah.
And that's how we would have met, because I think probably we played Glory, Glory, Man United, played a show opening for John Epworth and the Improvements in, I don't know what year. I think I still have the poster somewhere. But it was you guys in Grand Theft Bus at the Attic.
Oh, yes.
And we were so excited because we had played. So Adam and I had previously played in a punk band, Grade 7 Push Fight at St.
Love that
Effects.
name.
Oh, yeah. We
It's
stole
the
it
best
from
name.
another band.
Anyway.
But we moved to Halifax with the intention of starting a band and kind of getting, because that's where the scene was. And for the first probably year that we were there, we only played shows with friends of ours that we had gone to school with. Basically, would play with the same two other bands at the North End Tavern, I want to say.
Oh, yeah. One that burnt down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, we could get booked there. Or I don't know who had the connection there. I think we went back and played a show at Chuggles, too, at St. Effects. But we started playing Rockin' for Dollars as a way to kind of branch out and try to meet other people. And plus, it was just a thing you could do. But we reached out to Epworth, I think, on MySpace, because we were just started trying to contact other bands, local musicians that we liked.
Yeah.
And we were so excited when he asked us to play a show. Just you pinching yourself in disbelief that you get to do this.
Yeah.
Would you have played with John Epworth at Gobblefest in, is it maybe 2004 or 5? 2005, I think, in Sydney?
If it was 2005, yes.
With Ermine. also at that show?
Yeah.
Did you put?
I
Like,
don't remember it,
Oh, okay.
but if it was 2005, yes.
Okay, yeah, because Grade 7 Push Fight also played that show.
Yeah.
That was the first time I'd heard of John Epworth, I think. Yeah, it was. That was that year that we kind of started playing around the Maritimes, and it was at Steelworkers Hall. It was like a pretty busy show. It was again so exciting for us to like go somewhere else because the scene where we were was all jam bands. And we were like the only punk band in town. So to go to a place where there's like, whoa, it's a show and it's like busy. There's a crowd and all these bands are good.
Yeah.
And would you have also played with him at what's that called? Stereophonic?
You're just like name dropping now.
Oh, I
just
am.
kidding.
I'm thinking back because that was
I know. It's
good
fun to
time
look
because
back.
I had seen that band. Oh, we stopped recording. Yeah, I saw John Epworth at George's Roadhouse, and Shane left the stage in the middle of the set to go. I think he like went to the bathroom and got a beer in the middle of the show. I'd never seen somebody do that before. I thought it was so funny.
That was at the Stereophonic?
Yep.
Oh, wait a minute. Was that at the Art Gallery or was that at George's?
George's.
Was that the one where John was in a diaper or pink underwear where
I think he had sequin Speedos on.
just like almost nothing?
Yeah.
Okay, that was bad. Yeah. I remember the stage just looked like a pool
Right.
with alcohol. And I remember Mike was shouldn't have been doing this, making drinks from behind the drum kit for us. That was bad. I would say that was the night I met Sean McGilvery.
Really?
Yeah,
Because he was playing with the Burdocks. Yeah.
Burdocks played that night.
Yep.
And I was a spy. Played
Yeah,
that night.
totally.
And Sean got up with them and sung Police covers. And I was like, oh my God, this
you're
guy's
right.
awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And then me and him became friends.
Wow. Yeah, man. That's now that you mention that, I was hammered at that show too.
Oh, I think that was going around, the case of the hammeritis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah.
All right. So we should probably, I think my computer's dying on us and you got to get some lunch. So to bring things up to date, you've been ripping it up in Halifax ever since.
Oh, yeah. We didn't even cover the 2010s. So
I know. That might have to be part 2.
No.
How many bands have you played in your life, if you had to estimate?
1,000 million.
Yeah? It's a lot, right?
It is a lot. Like, over the past, I would say, 10 years or more, it's been, no, more than that, actually. Let's say the early 2000s. It's been 4 bands at once.
Wow.
At any given time, that's average, I would say.
Yeah.
It's less, it's more sometimes. I remember the ECMAs that was in St. John in 2001, I want to say. I played, I think it was 13 times that weekend.
Wow.
Yeah. I've heard of people playing more.
Well, I remember all those Cape Breton guys used to do that.
Yep.
Like,
I remember Alicia Penny said, I think she said 20.
yeah, because she had Yellow. She performed as a solo artist. She played with Tom Fun, and they would all just play in each other's bands.
Yep. Sluts.
Yeah. So,
Just like me.
related to that, I don't know if this is interesting for anybody, but it's kind of interesting for me, which I knew that about you, and it wasn't really until, like, I don't think we had ever played together until the Failure Epics band.
Oh, I think you're right.
Yeah, and I always was like, man, how does Jay
That's a
do
John
it?
Epworth project that was
Yeah.
amazing and you should check out.
Yeah, it's like it's not metal, but it's close to it. It's
Yeah.
like King Crimson-esque, like prog rock concept album
Yeah.
about like radioactive babies kind of taking over the world, right?
Something like that. Yeah. It's amazing though.
So like that. But anyhow, I always like, how does Jay do it? He just like remembers everything and it's that thing that people assume, I think, about musicians, where like, oh yeah, that guy's just a natural. That's why they can do it. That's what I discovered. Like, you are super organized with this stuff, and you put the time in to learning it.
Yeah. Well, it's more like it is that, but I think it just goes back to my hunger and thirst for just trying and playing and just like and even back further, I'm just excited by sounds.
Yeah.
It's just plain and simple. Sounds excite me, and then from there, it's like, oh yeah, there's different types of music. Oh, cool. And then I'll give me them all. I'm gonna eat them all, and some way, shape, or form. Like, I went to jazz school. I learned guitar with Van Halen and Kiss and stuff, and then I started listening to classical music when I was in high school, and I went to jazz school, and then I started playing bass in a band that was like folk, sort of pop rock kind of stuff, and then like metal was always there, and then I got metal just grew and grew for me over time into death metal and black metal and stuff that I still play. I was just listening to a whole bunch last night with my brother Jamie, some Incantation and Satyricon and all this awesome stuff. It's awesome. But yeah, just anything and everything, and then just some like ambient stuff, and like with Clinton. And anyway, yeah. And I love pop music and disco too.
All right, there you have it. Great one, right? I really enjoyed talking to that guy. I always enjoy talking to him. So, if you would like to know more about Mr. Jason Vautour, J-Vo, you can check out his many bands. He plays with Jesse Brown a lot. He plays with this go-go disco band here. He plays with Christina Martin. He had a metal band called Pith, P-I-T-H. That's pretty heavy. I'll put links to a bunch of stuff that he's done in the show notes. LearnDrums.ca/hitmakers. For now, we'll see what I'm going to do with that thing. I got 2 Instagram accounts, and I don't really care about having 2 Instagram accounts. I find I was really into Instagram for a while when it was kind of just trying to take cool pictures. And then when it became about putting out a lot of content and releasing things in volume, I've been away from it for pretty much the last couple of weeks and enjoying it. I guess I do still fire it up, but that's kind of part of the thing, is that when I do, I don't really feel like, oh, I missed this. But that may change. At Learn Drums for now. LearnDrums.ca. I also have a personal one, Ryan B, with a bunch of the letters appear multiple times. 4 A's, 4 B's. Everything else is 3's. Bye for now. Thanks for listening. You're the best.